Hello everybody, welcome to another video where I talk over a game, and today I wanted to talk about how autism may have affected my language learning skills. Now I don't know exactly how it works, but I was just watching a video by Thomas Henley who was talking about how he used to pick up accents as a kid, and just because it was interesting to him, not being aware how it could potentially be kind of socially awkward if you start copying somebody's accent while standing there talking to you. I've done something similar as well. I was on holiday once in Austria as an example, because I've done this before, but that was the most pressing one that came to mind. I think I was like 16 or something and was there with my dad and my brother, and we would go to these evening out types of deals. There was like a small club slash bar place where all the people that were on holiday there would go. I'm guessing that would be the upper ski hut during the ski season, but we went during the summer, so mostly we were hiking, and then in the evening we would go there for a drink and just talk to people that were there as well. Now the guy who initially started that place, he had a daughter, and that daughter had in the meantime grown up to be, I guess, somewhere in her 30s. She was there as well, so she's Austrian. I didn't copy her accent, but rather her friend who was about her age as well, and she had come to Austria on holiday once when she was a teen, and the two had kind of like connected and been friends ever since. Now she was from the UK, and she had a very UK accent, a little posh maybe. And normally when I spoke English, like to this day, I have a bit of a generic US accent because that's mostly what I hear, like on YouTube and stuff like that. And it also kind of is my default when I'm speaking English. Anyway, but when I was talking to those people, I noticed that I was talking more than talking, so to speak. So I was like sounding like her. As an aside, it was just another example as well as how I tended to hang out with adults more than people my age, because I found them more interesting, more relatable somehow, even though I was a teen. But that's probably a topic for another matter. Anyway, so that's an example of how I definitely copied somebody's accent while they were standing right there. Other incidents have happened, but I think I picked up fairly quickly that people didn't really like that, so I wouldn't try to do that. I still do occasionally like copy what people say, like in the moment when it just sounds interesting to me. When somebody says something a certain way, I might suddenly repeat that. I think that's called echolalia as well, but not trying to be rude when I do that, but it's just like something in my brain said, hey, that sounded interesting, and then I have to repeat it somehow. Anyway, but that's a different thing. So he was talking about how he used to do that, and then it made me think on how I learn languages, basically. Because what I really did to learn English, first of all, is copy the sounds that people are making. When normally when somebody tries to teach you a language, they go, oh, here is what the word is on paper. It sounds like this. It's written like that. And then you have to kind of like copy that and try to reproduce it and stuff like that. But usually the people that teach you, like if you're in the Netherlands and you're learning English or something, most of the English teachers do not have like native accents from a country where they speak English. So the way that they pronounce things is not quite how things are said out in the wild, so to speak. And if I hadn't grown up watching Saturday morning cartoons, which are mostly from the US anyway, and my only exposure to another language was through learning it from somebody who did not speak it natively, I probably wouldn't sound the same. Because growing up in the Netherlands, Saturday morning cartoons, like I said, they were from the US, so we would have the US versions, at least back then that was pretty common, with subtitles, and I would just copy what the characters in the show said, like the way that they said it. And there are still plenty of English words today that I can pronounce perfectly well, but I wouldn't know how to spell it because I've never actually seen it on paper. But because I've heard other people say it, I copy the sounds that they make when they say that word. And when I hear other people trying to speak English or other languages that I'm fairly familiar with, what I noticed is that a lot of the times the people that kind of struggle a bit with speaking another language, they are trying to pronounce everything perfectly as it was written, rather than listening to what the people around them, the actual native speakers, are saying, and just repeating the sounds that they're making. It's kind of like if you took a song from like Pearl Jam or something at a karaoke bar and tried to make it sound good while pronouncing all the words exactly as they're written. And I'm picking Pearl Jam because they tend to like, I don't know, slur words together. At least that's some of the songs that I remember from them. I wouldn't say that they were speaking the words perfectly, and if you had to sing one of their songs and you were to just take the written text and the tune, you probably wouldn't sound anywhere close to what the actual song sounds like. Now that's not really the point of karaoke most days, but still, that's kind of how I can explain it, or explain myself. Like particularly in English, there are quite a few letters in words that are not pronounced, and then somebody can clearly tell that you're not a native speaker because you're trying to pronounce them. But if you try to sing the song like Pearl Jam did it, like actually copying the sounds, you might not always know what you're saying, but you're going to get a lot closer to what it actually sounded like, so to speak. So what I basically did growing up was copy the sounds that I heard, mostly from the cartoons and some of the shows that came from the US that was also on TV, because in the Netherlands, nothing is really like dubbed over. Maybe some kids' cartoons. Yeah, a lot of kids' cartoons are probably dubbed over because the kids aren't expected to know English yet, particularly if they're also in that age bracket where they can't read the subtitles. Like those will probably be dubbed over, like a Dutch Sesame Street or something. But when kids are able to read, I think it's more likely that the cartoons that are aimed at their age will have subtitles, at least they used to in my day and age. And that's also a nice way to learn because you can read what they're saying or what they're supposed to be saying if the subtitles are correct while hearing what they're actually saying. And I'm pretty sure I learned how to speak English before I could write it, mostly because of that, the Saturday morning cartoons. So if you want to sound a little bit more like a native speaker, then ignore what's written and just copy what you hear. But I think that the echolalia that I briefly mentioned earlier, that tends to come with somebody being on the autism spectrum does help with that, because you're already like listening for sounds and then you're looking to copy them as they sounded to you. Mostly people think echolalia just involves repeating what somebody else said, but I think it goes far beyond that. Like, for instance, also copying sounds of devices and stuff like that. Pretty much just sounds in general. With myself, I personally find that whenever I hear something that makes me go, that's interesting, I'm likely to repeat that. And that includes text notifications sometimes, so there's that. So that was a quick little observation of mine about autism spectrum and how that may have helped me learn languages, or at least to sound more like a native speaker than the average person who just learns from the text, I guess. Or something like Duolingo, because I loaded up the Dutch course on Duolingo once, just out of interest to see how that went. And I was surprised to hear that the voices that pronounced the Dutch words sounded very odd. Like maybe they're AI or something? But the way that things were pronounced, at least back then when I tried it, it just didn't sound natural at all. So if you only had Duolingo to learn a language, then do not assume that the app has the correct pronunciation. Now, Duolingo has been criticized from all over, so I don't really need to go into that. But yeah, if you want to learn a language, like speak it as the native speakers, do listen to native speakers more often. Copy the sounds they make, not the words, the sounds. It's handy if you know what you're saying, obviously, because then you can be a little more accurate in your pronunciation, but use your echolalia to get the sounds right. But that is now finally the end of my observation on how I probably had a bit of an advantage learning a new language due to my autism spectrum. Hope you found that interesting, and I hope to see you in another video. Thanks for watching, and bye-bye for now.